This video should not be necessary because nobody should be celebrating Halloween in the first place in light of COVID. If you celebrate Halloween this year, you are a biological terrorist. But don't let that distract from the fact that you're also probably a racist. Halloween is a holiday rife with problematic potential. Many people on Halloween, including children, especially children, in fact, reveal themselves to be Klan members, bigots, Nazi sympathizers. And that's why I've decided to provide a handy list of 9 simple ways to avoid being racist on Halloween. It goes without saying that these rules, like all rules, are intended for white, cisgendered heterosexuals only. Everybody else can do literally whatever they want. Number 1, avoid costumes based on characters outside your race. Now, this should be obvious, but it bears repeating. It is absolutely demeaning and insensitive to pretend to be something you're not. Unless you're a man pretending to be a woman, in which case a parade should be thrown in your honor, but never mind that. Now, you might retort that the entire damned point of Halloween is to pretend to be something you're not, but that argument only reveals your white privilege. Look, it's very simple. People of color are not here for your amusement. It's not acceptable to make a mockery of an entire race of people, even if it's not your intention to mock. Now, it's hard for you to understand the pain caused by cultural caricatures because you're white and nobody ever makes, a caricature of white people.
Come on, guys, let's go apply for credit cards, huh? What do you think? Come on. Just shut up! I'm a pixie.
Your mother's so old that her breast milk is powdered. You breastfeed like this.
When white people are alone, they give things to each other for free.
How do you know if I'm funny, you bastard?
Incidentally, I just remembered I had a great discussion about this very point last St. Paddy's Day while I guzzled green Irish beer amid a crowd of drunken hooligans dressed like leprechauns and wearing shamrock glasses.
I'm crazy, Patty!
Number 2, avoid costumes based on characters of the same race. What kind of message are you sending when you dress as a white person for Halloween? Are minority cultures not worthy of your attention? Would you be embarrassed to be seen in a costume associated with a race that you clearly find inferior? Do you think that the only good fictional characters are white? A white child dressed as a white character is advocating segregation. He might as well just dress up as Jim Crow or some other racist bird. The one thing more bigoted than mocking a person of color by dressing like them is excluding them by not dressing like them. You should be ashamed. Number 3, avoid costumes made from material that originates from historically oppressed regions. Costumes made from cotton are definitely ruled out for, I would hope, obvious reasons. Costumes featuring anything gold or sparkly must be ruled out because they may remind indigenous people of the European explorers who came here to rape their land and steal their gold. Actually, all fabrics must be ruled out because East Asia has a prosperous textile trade and has had one for many centuries. And don't even think about, of course, wearing a jacket if it's a little cold on Halloween. That would be extremely offensive to Eskimos, who are basically not white and I assume invented jackets. Also, don't call them Eskimos, you racist scumbag. Number 4, and this is very important, avoid costumes made from material that does not originate from historically oppressed regions. What are you trying to prove by dressing your kid in that plastic Batman costume? Plastic was invented by a white man, which is a point of pride for white supremacists everywhere. You hear them chanting it in their marches, attended by millions. "We are the plastic kings," they shout. I think. Are you a white supremacist? Is your kid? When you wear plastic, you otherize and exclude marginalized people who did not have the opportunity to invent plastic themselves. Try to be a little sensitive for a change, you worthless, drooling, knuckle-dragging Nazi caveman. Number 5, avoid costumes that marginalized people would prefer you not wear. Now, this one isn't very hard at all. If a person from a marginalized group is offended by your costume for any reason whatsoever,
my hair is not a costume. It's not something I just throw on to look cute. I mean, even though I do look cute, that's not the purpose of it.
You must immediately tear it off and run through the street naked, beating your chest and screaming, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. The safest approach is to gather together a focus group of your 500 closest minority friends and have them vote on the appropriateness of your costume. This is a process that I follow before I get dressed every single day. It only takes about 8 to 10 hours usually. Small price to pay. in the name of combating white supremacy. Unless you don't care about combating white supremacy. Because you are a white supremacist. Number 6, avoid costumes that you buy from the store. Think about it. If you buy a costume from a local retailer, that's one fewer costume that would be available for the next African-American, Latinx, Sudanese, or Cambodian who walks through the door. In a sense, by purchasing the costume, you are stealing it from a Cambodian. Worst of all, store-bought costumes advertise your wealth and privilege to disadvantaged groups who've long dreamed of going on a shopping spree at Party City. I seriously can't believe that you would even consider buying a costume for your child. You may as well just cut to the chase and kick a minority in the shins. Disgusting.
Disgusting!
Well, it's betting season at MyBookie. MyBookie has everything you would expect from a sports book, but they also have political odds, which are a lot of fun. You can bet on things like the winner of the presidential election, even the day the loser will concede the race. It gets very specific. They've also got a lot of fun betting opportunities for the upcoming presidential debates. Will Joe Biden call President Trump a racist? Will President Trump mention Ted Wheeler by name? There are many different things you could put in there. You can bet all this and more at MyBookie. Nothing makes an event more exciting than putting some money on it, and with the NFL and election season in full swing, it's a great time to get in on the action. Sometimes you have a gut feeling about a matchup, and sometimes you're just betting on your team because they're your team. That's my strategy for betting, which is why I'm not very good at it. Regardless, whether you've been betting for years or you're ready to play for the first time, MyBookie is your go-to this season. With the biggest online selection of bets and props, they've made it simple to win and very easy to withdraw your cash. Head over to MyBookie to create an account. Just use the promo code Walsh to claim your 100% deposit match, all the way up to $1,000. That means you put in $100, they give you $100. It's an easy way to jumpstart your bankroll. NFL, NBA, MLB, everything else. They've got it all on tap, and it's never too late to get started on your winning season. Right now, only at MyBookie. Number 7, avoid homemade costumes. Is there any more obnoxious way to flaunt your privilege than to wear a costume you made yourself?
This is essentially a big brown sack they sewed some plastic fringe on to represent an entire group of indigenous people.
When I was a child, I wanted to be a knight for Halloween, so my mom covered a cereal box in tinfoil and put it on my head. As I walked down the street, thousands of Black and Hispanic children looked at my ritzy homemade outfit and wept. I learned then how dangerous Halloween can be. The other problem, of course, is that homemade clothing is customary in many African and Asian cultures. They have stitched their own garbs for millennia. It's highly presumptuous for a white person to partake in such an intimate and long-standing minority tradition. Yet again, we have a case of appropriation. How could you even consider doing something that minorities do or don't do? Number 8, avoid costumes. All costumes are cultural appropriation by definition. If you'd studied history, you'd know that non-white cultures have always worn costumes for their various wonderful festivals and so forth. The Wodabi tribe in Niger joins together once a year for a ritual celebration where many of the participants wear elaborate face paint and feathery attire. Before you go out this Halloween, think about how your costume will impact any Wodabi tribesmen you may come across. Perhaps it's best to forfeit costumes entirely. Number 9, avoid avoiding costumes. Only a racist would forfeit costumes entirely.
What?
Huh?
What?
To forego costumes on Halloween communicates two things to marginalized populations. A, you don't want to offend them because you're afraid of them, which perpetuates the myth of the dangerous minority. B, you don't want to partake in this fun holiday with minorities because they aren't equal to you. Your decision to not wear a costume can be extremely dehumanizing to non-white people, almost as dehumanizing as your decision to wear a costume. So these are the rules. They will be, on my end, strictly enforced. Any white child who comes knocking at my door will have to follow the above protocols. Also pass a short cultural sensitivity quiz, and of course a COVID test, and obtain a waiver from their doctor in order to receive a treat from me. If they fail, well, they'll just have to hope that the guy next door is handing out gluten-free pita chips. Mine are reserved for non-racists only. Hey, you, you right there. Hit the subscribe button right now. Do it right now. I thank you for your compliance. It's somewhat appreciated.